A generation ago, most people kept their job for their entire career. You may have worked for a big company or a small town business, whatever it was. You didn't keep just the same career, you kept the same job. But today, the world is different. We know that most people will have multiple jobs during their career. However, we want to get to a place where we have a vision for a career, a calling, a purpose. And even though we may change who we work for, we keep that career on track. Today, I'm going to talk about staying power, the secrets of having a long and successful career. We certainly live in a world where career changes have become commonplace. Career changes, job changes, people are constantly changing. I have a friend that started out, spent his first 20 years in the media business. Now he sells real estate. Other people who started in the real estate business, now they switch to something else. The truth is, most people really struggle when they come up against an obstacle in their career. And it's okay to change jobs. It's okay to change who you work for or how you work. But if you're really passionate about your career and your purpose, the question is, how do I stay successful and make a difference over the long haul? That's why I want to talk today about staying power. Whatever career you've chosen, I want to give you a handful of techniques and ideas that I think will help really make a difference and keep you on track for the entire length of your lifetime. So here we go. Here's some specifics that I encourage you to write down because you never know what will happen. I mean, we live in a very volatile age. Job markets are changing, careers are changing, and we never know when that moment may happen, when we may lose our job, the company may go bankrupt. You just never know. So write these down because you constantly should be reviewing these principles because they'll make a difference in the longevity of your career. Number one, invest in yourself. Take your job and your dream seriously. I have to say I'm shocked at the number of people that I meet who the boss won't buy them the computer or other tools they need for their job, so they just limp along without ever getting what they actually need. My thing is, if your boss won't buy you the computer you need, or your boss won't give you other tools that you need, or apps or programs or whatever, invest in yourself. Go get them yourself. Why restrict your career simply because your boss or your leader doesn't have any great vision? You need to get to the places where you can buy the best tools, the information. Now, they're expensive, I get that. But at some point, you need to start investing in yourself. Even if nobody else believes in you, if your boss doesn't believe in you, if your company doesn't believe in you, even if your family doesn't believe in you, if you feel genuinely called to a great purpose, you need to get the tools you need, the programs you need, the resources you need. So start investing in yourself. And I also think that investing means information. You need to go online, join associations, be at conferences where the best ideas are discussed. The fact that you're listening to this or watching this right now indicates that you're looking to expand your knowledge, to expand your mind, and that's so critically important. Never get to a place where you feel like, I don't need to go to the conferences, I really don't need to engage with other professionals. I tell you, I'm a conference hound. I love going to different kind of conferences. I love speaking at them. I love attending them because that's a place where sparks happen, man. Conversations in hallways happen, and you never know the ideas you'll get. In fact, it's funny. I think I probably get more ideas for my books, my podcast, my blog, just sitting in the audience, listening to others speak, because when they talk about certain things, it sparks new ideas in my own head. It makes me think. It forces me to question my assumptions. So information, tools, resources, associations. And by the way, when it comes to investing in yourself, dress like where you're going, not like where you've been. Now, I'm not going to get big on this because we do live in a casual age where it's okay to wear t-shirts and jeans, particularly if you're in a creative role. But the truth is, you need to think about your perception. When you walk into a room, people start making judgments immediately. Remember, I've talked before about the fact that we live in an 8-second world. We're being pulled in so many directions and have so many distractions that people start making decisions within 8 seconds of meeting you, which means the way you look, the way you walk into a room, the way you present yourself, your attitude, that matters now more than ever. So think about dressing for the place you want to go, not the place you've been. Think about movement, think about achievement, and that's incredibly important. So really, the bottom line is, number one, invest in yourself. It's risky. I know it's dangerous. Sometimes it's scary if you have to spend money on a new computer or other tools. But I'll tell you what, just think of the difference you'd make in your advancement if you had the right tools in front of you, whether your boss, whether your leader wants to get them for you or not. Invest in yourself. The second thing I would do is fix your resume. You have no idea, again, how many people I meet that they're laid off, they're fired, the company goes bankrupt, and they call me for any leads, job opportunities, and I say, well, have you got a resume? Well, no, I just worked for the last 10 years for this company, and I've never really thought about updating my resume. Let me tell you, I don't care how secure you think your job is, you should have an updated resume all the time. And make it short, make it sweet. I don't really care that you were a cheerleader in high school. I don't really care that you played in the high school band, unless, of course, you're applying for a music job, maybe. But, don't list hobbies, don't list things from the past. I want to get to the point in a resume, know how you can help transform my company. And by the way, don't use vague terms like I'm a catalyst. You have no idea how many resumes I see that the opening line is, I'm a catalyst. Well, you know what? I'm not hiring a catalyst right now. I'm hiring a video editor. So be plain, be simple, be direct. Don't try to impress people with big, vague terms. Also, this is just me, but I'm skeptical about I love working and leading teams. That's good, and that's an important skill, but it really doesn't tell me what you do and what you're really brilliant at. I don't know that I'm necessarily needing a team leader all the time. So be very clear about what you want. And when I say resume, I also mean keep your portfolio updated if you're a designer, keep your reel updated if you're a filmmaker. And the other thing to think about in this conversation is a bio. One of the things that I see here in Hollywood that a lot of people don't think about is that this is a story-driven business. The entertainment, communications, the media industry, film, television, they're all story-driven, which means a resume is a list, a checklist of all the things you've done, but it really doesn't tell your story. I'm a big believer in having a bio. In fact, I see more and more companies shifting to asking for a bio when they interview somebody for a job. They want to know about your past. They want to know how you got here. They want to hear the story about where you've come so far in your career. So I would encourage you to think about a bio. Now, the truth is, on a bio, you don't want to stretch the truth. This is true on a resume too. You don't want to lie. I actually had a guy bring me his demo reel, and he showed me his demo reel, and it actually had a commercial I'd produced on it. Now, that was an awkward conversation. Let me just say, I kind of enjoyed it, but it was an awkward conversation for him, and needless to say, he didn't get the job. So you can't lie. Certainly, I don't mind exaggerating a little bit. I want to, color everything I've done in a positive light, but at the same time, don't lie. Whether it's a bio, a resume, demo reel, portfolio, whatever, make sure it's your work and you describe it. I also think you should really be specific. I've had plenty of guys send me resumes who tell me they've worked for Fox, and I live in Hollywood. I assuming that means Fox Studios or maybe the Fox Network, only to find out it was at a local Fox television station in Omaha. Big difference. So be very clear and be specific. So don't list everything. I mean, the purpose of your resume is to intrigue them. It should be a teaser, and you want them to ask for more. That's the key. When you understand that, you start to understand the key that helps you create a great resume, a great bio, great demo reel, or even a great portfolio. And let me say one last thing about the demo reel. I don't want to see a compilation of things you've done. Now, if you're a DP, if you're a director of photography, or even an editor, maybe that's okay, where you take a popular song and you start cutting scenes together from all the millions of projects you've worked on in your career. That's okay, but if you're a filmmaker, if you're a producer, writer, director, somebody like that, I really want to see a finished project because I want to see about your ability to tell a story. That says so much, and I would encourage you that do finished projects on there. I think that's really important. The third thing is create an elevator pitch for your life. Now, obviously here in Hollywood, an elevator pitch is the idea, as most of you probably know. If I get on an elevator and meet a studio executive, could I pitch my dream project just in the time it takes to go up 2 or 3 floors in the elevator? That means you have to hone in, get down to it in just a few lines. And my feeling is if you can't do that, you don't know your project well enough. I have people come up to me all the time and say, no, Phil, I need 30 minutes. I need an hour to really explain the concept. If you need 30 minutes or an hour, you don't know your project well enough. You should be able to distill it in just a few lines. Now, here, let me give you a little guideline that'll help you when you create a pitch. And certainly that works for projects, but the thing about this conversation is we also want to talk about doing a elevator pitch for your career. So here are the things that go into an elevator pitch for your career. Number one, who are you? Just give me one line. Who are you? Hi, I'm Phil Cooke. Number two, what do you do? I'm a filmmaker. I'm a writer. I'm a producer. I'm a television, whatever. What do you do? Number three, where do you want to go? Where are you heading in your career? That gives me some context of the direction you're heading. Number four, how will you get there? That's probably the projects you're working on, the job you have right now, the dream you have in your life. And number five, how can you help them? Ultimately, if you're talking to a potential boss, if you're talking to another leader, they need to know what's in it for me, how you can help them achieve their dream. You know, there's a saying out there that if you help enough people achieve their dream, they'll help you achieve yours. So remember, this isn't an elevator pitch for a project. It's an elevator pitch for your career and your life. Number one, who are you? Number two, what do you do? Number three, where do you want to go? Number four, how will you get there? And number five, how can you help them? And that shouldn't be more than a sentence answer to each question. And let me tell you, if you're always ready with that, it doesn't matter who you step into that elevator with, or who you happen to run into at that conference, or who you happen to meet at lunch. You're always in a position to tell them about your career. I saw a guy the other day that introduced himself to me, and he was looking for a job in the media business. And I said, well, tell me what you do and what's your dream? What do you really want to accomplish? And he's, well, I don't know. What happened was when I was in college, I studied film, but then I said, hold it, stop. I'm already bored. You killed me. You're not answering my question. You're wandering around. So always be ready with a direct, keep in mind, the higher person you meet on the food chain, they're going to be busy. They don't have time to hear you ramble about your life and your grandpa and why you came to the U.S. and what inspired you to work. They don't need to know that stuff. They want to know short and sweet. So, number three, create that elevator pitch for your life. And by the way, let me just give you a secret on that interviews and meeting people. I read some research the other day. This is free, no additional charge. I read some interesting research the other day that the best time to have a job interview is at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning. The worst times are on Monday or Friday. Monday, they're still recovering from the weekend. Friday, they're thinking about the weekend. And the third worst time is after lunch. That's when everybody wants to take a nap and nobody's going to focus on you. So I'll tell you, Tuesday, 10:30 a.m., obviously we can't always schedule that, but that's an interesting target to shoot for when you're interviewing somebody for a new job. All right, let's keep talking about from a job to your dream, staying power, how you keep that long-term focus for your career. Number four, think less about your job title or your business and more about your specific skill. Now, I'll tell you where I got this. This is, I think, well, let me just say that I got this from a friend of mine, a girl that I met who is a writer, brilliant writer. She had come to LA to do screenplays. And I'd seen her work. I'd read her screenplays, and she was a very talented writer. The problem is she'd not gotten picked up. Nobody picked up one of her screenplays yet. Nobody read it. Nobody bought it. And she was, she'd go to, work at a coffee shop every day and work on her screenplay. And so one day I met her and I sat down and I said, look, you're an extremely good writer. Why don't you also write magazine articles, books, stay with your screenplay, stay focused on screenplays, but you're such a good writer. You could make a living. She was working at Starbucks at the time. And I said, instead of working at Starbucks during the day and going home and working on your screenplay, you could make a living as a writer, either for magazines or online sources. There's a lot of places where you could write different things that would actually pay your way and help you hone your skill at the same time. And she said, nope. She said, my dream is to come to LA and be a screenwriter. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'll babysit. I'll work at Starbucks. I'll do other jobs during the day to pay the bills while I focus. Now, here's the thing. I was thrilled at her focus. I mean, that's admirable. However, I worry that if she never gets a break with her screenplay, is she wasted her career? Is she wasted all those years when she could have discovered she could make a really good living as a writer of books or a great living as a magazine writer? So I just really believe, don't get so focused on the particular role you're doing or a certain business. Think more about your skill and how that skill could be used in different ways. I actually taught a class at UCLA for a number of years. When I first came to LA, I taught a class at UCLA on, while you're waiting for your dream project to happen, here's all the things you could do to make a living in the meantime. And I was talking specifically to filmmakers at the time, but I said, think of all the corporate video facilities there are. Every hospital in LA has a video studio. Nonprofits, even churches today. I tell colleges a lot, stop training your kids just to go to Hollywood and start training them for all these media positions at churches around the country. At any given moment, I can probably name you 20 or 30 churches looking for a media director. And churches are doing remarkable things right now. I know 10 churches at least that have made feature films that have been released. So when you look at the media world out there, or whatever profession you're in, don't get your particular business so focused that you don't think about other ways you could use your skill. I just think that's a really important issue because it keeps you focused on your skill. It helps you keep improving it. And I think that's important. Well, I wrote a book called One Big Thing, Discovering What You Were Born to Do. And in that book, I talked about this is not about a job. It's about your skill. It's about your calling. It's about your gift. And that calling, that gift, that skill could be expressed in any number of ways. So don't get hung up that I can only write for screenplays, or I can only write for books, or I could only sell this kind of product, or I could only lead this kind of team. Expand a little bit, because if you have a bigger vision for your life, that'll allow you to accomplish so much more. Number 5, stop talking. I've probably mentioned this a couple times in my podcast because I think it's so critical, but I think one of the keys to sustaining a long career sometimes is just stop talking. I had a guy come to me not long ago for a job interview, and I travel a lot, about 250,000 miles a year, so it's kind of hard to schedule appointments with me, and it took us a few months to get this thing worked out. And he walked in the office, and we shook hands, and he immediately started talking. And literally 55 minutes later, he was still talking. I don't think he took a breath. I finally waved my hands in front of him and said, hey, I'm not sure why you came today, because you could have stayed at home and just talked for an hour. If you came for my advice, our time is up. We blocked an hour for this meeting, and I really don't have the time to give you any advice. I'm so sorry. And I got up and walked out of the room. And a lot of people told me in retrospect that was a bit harsh, but I hope to teach him a lesson that when you're around someone that you want to learn from, or you want to grow, or you're in a job interview with, don't do all the talking. Let them do the talking. You set the stage because you're there to hear advice from them. I'll meet people here that I know in Hollywood that are major producers or the heads of a studio or owners of a big production company, and I want to listen to what they have to say. I'm not interested in hogging the conversation. I want to listen to what they have to say. So that means when you go into a job interview, or you go in to pitch yourself or pitch a project, don't do all the talking. I tell the story frequently of a documentary producer that I went in to visit one day to pitch a project to. And as I walked into his office, man, he was so angry. I mean, he was yelling at this guy. He was on the phone, screaming at the director of a project he just worked with and finished. And he hated it. I mean, he was just so angry at this guy. And I didn't say anything. I didn't interrupt. I just let him vent. And he just slammed the phone down. And he looked at me and he just started explaining all the things that had gone wrong about the project. And he went another 10 or 15 minutes. And I just let him talk, let him get it out of his system. And when he was done, he finally just said, oh, man, thank you so much for letting me vent. He said, look, whatever you came to pitch, we'll do it. No problem. I actually pitched a documentary project that we ended up producing without saying a single word. So don't feel like you have to be a talker all the time. Being a listener can have a real big difference in your career. Number 6, learn to say no. I'll tell you, many people get stalled in their career because they're saying yes to too many things. You've heard this before, and I think Warren Buffett's quote is my favorite. The difference between successful people and really successful people is really successful people say no most of the time. You know, you have to, depending on where you want to go in your career and your life, you often have to say no to even good things so you can say yes to great things. I find many people that get bogged down and distracted and detoured because they just feel obligated to say yes to everything. And very often we want to be nice, we want to be respectful, but the truth is we need to really focus. And depending on where you're going or what you want to do with your career, don't be distracted. Don't get off track. It doesn't mean you have to be a jerk. Doesn't mean you have to say no to everything, but start being selective about the projects you do, the organizations you work for, the people you respond to. That is very important. And I tell the story that it worked with us. I speak at a lot of conferences, and I do my podcast and my YouTube channel, and a lot of people will just reach out to me for career advice, and they don't think anything about actually paying me. They just assume they can take a half a day of my time, walk in the office, plop down on the sofa, and just chat about their career for half a day. And I'm not a jerk, and I have friends that I don't mind doing that with at all. However, I have discovered that so many people want it, and I was complaining about that one day, and my daughter Kelsey was working for us at the time, and she said, "Hey, Dad, let me take care of this. When they call, I'll take the call. I'll take care of it." And so people would call in, and they'd ask for I'd like to come over and talk to Phil about my career. And she said, "That's awesome. My dad loves that." She said, "Because of some of his recent books, we've had so many calls about that. In fact, we blocked a couple days a week just to help people and just to coach people with their career." And she said, "It starts at $350 an hour. So just let me know when you want to book an appointment, and we'll make it happen." And she said, suddenly the phone got really, really quiet. But the funny thing I didn't expect was that certainly about 80% never called back. But she said, "You know what? 20% will say, 'Wow, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. Absolutely, sign me up. Where can I sign up?'" So we started actually making money saying no to people. So you don't have to be a jerk. You just have to be focused, be selective. Think about where you're going in your career, and the stakes are really, really big. So number 7, I think the key to a long career is understanding your zone. And there's 2 areas of your zone that I'm a big believer in. One is where you're most creative and productive, and also what time you're most creative and productive. And those are 2 different things, but they're very, very important. I find certainly if you have a full-time job, it's very hard to control your day to a great degree. However, I'm a morning person. And I learned a long time ago from 6 a.m. to noon, man, I can be as creative as I want to be. I can write like a crazy person. I can be in meetings and talk about creative ideas, whatever you want. If it's in the morning, I'm amazing. After lunch, not so much. I start to peter out after lunch. And certainly at night is not my time for creative time. However, my wife is the opposite. Kathleen is a night person. So she'd rather sleep in and then stay up later at night. Other people are that way. Research actually indicates there's a small sliver of people who are afternoon people, but most people usually are either morning people or they keep rock star hours late at night. So I'd encourage you, figure that out for you. When I discovered that I was a morning person, I completely shifted my day and my priorities and my schedule to try to open up that time as much as possible. Certainly we can't always have the mornings open. I have clients that I have to work with, and they have needs and emergencies, and they have urgent things that come up. And so I break it, but as much as possible, I try to focus on that time of day. And then, of course, where you work is important too. For me, I've discovered I can't be in a coffee shop. I can't be in the public. I can't be on the beach. I can't be, in any place where there are other people, or I am so easily distracted you can't even believe it. I think a bank vault would be the perfect place for me to work. And I've discovered that I need the windows closed. I need no music, no TV. If I'm going to focus, I need to focus. So you may not be that way. I saw some research recently that indicated the low rumble of coffee shop conversation is really inspiring to a lot of people, really creative. It excites creativity in some people. So if that's you, great. God bless you. But I've discovered what worked for me. There's a great book out called Daily Rituals. I'd encourage you to get it. Daily Rituals. It's a small book, but they list like 100 of the most recent creative, productive people in the world through history and of the last, say, 200 years. And all they do is talk about what their daily schedule was. It's eye-opening. You start seeing that people are slaves to routine. I think ritual and routine is so very, very important because what you find is that your body needs a routine in order to be productive. Writing, for instance, if you try to just write at random times, it's very, very difficult. But if you have a time every day where you go in and connect the seat of your chair to the seat of your pants, after a while, your brain starts to think, oh, he's in the chair, it's time to start writing. Or she's in the chair, it's time to start designing. Whatever it is you do, have a routine for it. It makes a really big difference. Number 8, stop with the lame excuses. I just have discovered that a significant number of people stumble or are held back from a long and successful career because they're just too quick to offer up excuses. I don't want to offend anybody, but a guy named Jordan Belfort said one of my favorite quotes. He said, "The only thing standing between you and your goal is the BS story you keep telling yourself about why you can't achieve it." Wow, that's serious. That's serious. And think about how many times we offer excuses for why we're not where we want to be. I didn't have time. The kids, my job, I was too busy. My wife doesn't like this, whatever. You know what? All of those are excuses, and it's time to move the lame excuses to the side and start focusing on what you want to accomplish. The last thing I would say is become an expert. Become an expert. Being an authority matters in your field. One of the reasons I see that people achieve a long career is after a while, they've gotten so good at what they do and so knowledgeable, they're looked to as an authority. Now, I don't care what you do. You could be a video shooter, you could be a graphic designer, an insurance salesman, a football coach, whatever it is you do. If you study and you work at this and become the go-to person for people that need advice in that area, you start establishing an authority. Now, if you read the Gospels, every people over and over describe Jesus as they were amazed that he had such authority. People respond to authority. I'm not so big about you. It's not about necessarily being an expert. I'm skeptical about a lot of expertise these days. But becoming an authority in your chosen field, it may be web design, it may be video editing, whatever it is, you become the go-to person that other editors, other designers, other writers, people come to for advice. That really starts to position you in an entirely different way in their perception of who you are. So I think really focus on that. And I would say the secrets to becoming the authority are, number one, get the knowledge, study, read, see what other people are doing. Number two, learn to communicate with people. Be articulate, start networking, communicate clearly with people. Then get to know people. Just expand your networks, connect, go to conferences, go to events, start connecting. And then the fifth thing is get the word out. And that means as you become an authority in a subject, maybe you ought to talk to a local radio station about being interviewed on that subject. Maybe you ought to write a magazine article that could go to an online publication. Getting the word out, maybe you teach a class at a local college or university. That helps get the word out that really shares your authority. Now, I said that was the last thing, but this thought had just occurred to me that I think could be the most successful thing of all. When you think in terms of staying power and have a long, successful career, one of the things I'd really urge you to do is stop ignoring your story. Now, whenever I speak at a conference, I'll have people come up to me afterwards and say, you know, Phil, nobody cares about my story. I've got a pretty boring past. I'm going to tell you, I've lived long enough to know that I'm convinced somebody out there needs to hear your story. Somebody out there would be encouraged by your story. Somebody out there would really be motivated by hearing your story. Think about that, because it could change everything for you. And I just really believe that God made you for a purpose. Whatever your background, you may be an immigrant, you may be a minority, you may be handicapped in some way. I don't care what it is. You could be, maybe you went to an elite university, maybe you went to a junior college or no college at all. Maybe you had abuse in your background. Whatever it is, that's helped make you who you are today. And to ignore that, the thing is, to me, I see people that go into sales, go into marketing, go into creative jobs, go into the ministry, and they go to work every day, never once thinking about integrating who they are into what they do. Listen to what I just said. People go to work every day, never thinking about how to integrate who I am into what I do. I'll tell you, that could really start to shift your career if you started integrating your past and who you are into how you do your job. Stop ignoring your story. I'll tell you, you want to be unique, you want to stand out. Here's the thing. I can name you 10,000 video people. I could name you 100 graphic designers, 1 million writers. But when you start integrating your past, your unique past in your life into that job, suddenly you're the only one on the planet that's like that. So what is it about your past and what's made you who you are that when it's integrated into the role you play and the career you're pursuing, what is it about that that makes you completely 100% unique? If you figure that out, it could change everything. Go visit me at my website, philcooke.com. I've got a great new book, Maximize Your Influence. I'd encourage you to go. Influencematters.com is the website for that book. I'd encourage you to write that down. Influencematters.com, how to maximize your influence. It's really how the digital world can jumpstart your career, your ministry, your organization, and change a lot of things for you in the future. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you next time.